Hi, it's Kylie Coo. Welcome to my studio. So today I'm going to be working on my February project for the Art and Soul Studio Facebook group. And the prompt for this month is to make some, what I'm calling, creative affirmation cards. So these are like positive affirmation cards, but with a kind of creative theme to them. So I've made some already, and I'll go over these in a bit more detail once we've actually made some more today. For the project, I'll let you know what kind of materials you need. Basic materials really, so if you don't have a lot of materials, then don't worry, I am sure you can do something like this. So let me clear these away and I'll show you what I'll be using today. So here's what I'm going to be using, and here's what I think you'll need as a kind of minimum. Some sort of background papers. Now, some of these are ones that I made following Diana from Artfully Yours with Diana YouTube channel, and who is also in the Art and Soul Studio Facebook group. I followed some of what she was doing. I have some other papers that were jelly prints, and another one that I'd made some time ago for a project that I never got around to finishing. So some sort of background papers. Now, I will be making my cards all the same size, but you could make them different sizes. So if you had scraps of paper left over, you know, your cards don't all need to be the same size. That's just the way that I'm doing it. If you didn't have papers like this, you could use any painted papers or even some pieces from magazines. You could put them onto some food packaging, you know, back of a cereal box, that kind of thing. It's just something to give you a base to work on. Or, of course, you can create some from new. I've got a mix of acrylics. These were watercolours. These particular two were watercolours with the plastic wrap. Diana shows you how to do that. I'll leave a link to her video. So yeah, basically any background papers. So I'll be using those. I'll also need some scissors to cut those. I'll be doing some cutting on my paper cutter, just for quickness, but scissors as well. I'll be using a corner punch just because I like to put a corner on my cards. Black ink pad, any colour of ink pad. A couple of things to stamp with. For these cards I'm going to use this butterfly and dragonfly. You could do drawings, you could do collage. And the other thing I'll be using is a black pen, white pen, and a glue stick. Now, the reason I'll be using the glue stick is to stick my affirmations down on the card. And what I've done is I've already printed up some affirmations. And I'm going to put these into the Art and Soul Studio Facebook group resources, so it's in the files section if you wanted to use these. You don't need to use them, you can do your own affirmations, you can handwrite them, whatever you want, but these are there if you wanted to use them. So I have them in two different fonts, and I've also picked out some of the words so that they can be used in different ways through on the cards. So the affirmations I've come up with are: I am a creative being. I own my creative journey. I will grow creatively. I enjoy the creative process. I find joy in my creativity. I love creative expression. I will listen to my inner coach. My creativity is boundless. My art is interesting and beautiful. My mind is full of creative ideas. And these are all things that, you know, you could look at your card sometime if you're looking to have a bit of encouragement, needing a bit of faith in yourself, then you can look at these cards. So let's get started. So to begin with, I'm going to pick a piece of paper. I think I'm just going to use this one today. This was kind of blues and lilacs, created with watercolour and with the plastic wrap technique. So I'm going to be making my cards in size 7 centimetres by 10 centimetres, and that's more or less 2 3/4 inches by I've got that wrong, 4 inches. No, that is right. So 4 inches long and 2 3/4 wide, and it was just slightly short of 4 inches, but as I say, you can make the cards whatever size you want. That's just the kind of size that I'm using. So I'm going to use my paper cutter to trim these to the right size. So I'm going to make 5 cards. There's 10 affirmations in all. I'm going to do 5 today. And I should have said this was painted onto kind of cardstock. It's not a particularly heavyweight cardstock, but I would maybe back them onto something else again, although once they're done, they would be fine for in journals. So the next thing I'm going to get ready before I start anything else is getting the rest of my affirmations cut up. So I'm going to sit and do this. This is what I have left from those 2 sheets of paper. So I'm going to work out the ones that I want to use. I know these are the ones, but I might use some of these words in place here. So for example, art is there. What I might do is print it out or cut it out in the blue. So I'm going to get those ready. I want to get all the prep done first, and I'm going to change out this white sheet so that I'm not gluing on this nice white sheet. So once I have those done, I'll be back. Okay, so at the start I showed you the kind of basics of the materials we need today, but of course you can add in anything else that you want, and I'll be adding in a couple of things. So these are not essential, but just if you want to. And all I'm going to do is add a very faint bit of a script stamp across these, not in a lot of detail. I don't want it too bright, so I'll stamp it off first. It just gives a little bit of added interest in the background. Don't need to go heavy with it. But you could use anything at all, any kind of background, and you don't need to use anything. It's entirely up to you. So now that that's done, I'm now going to take my butterfly and dragonfly, and I'll do 3 of one and 2 of the other. I had to give this a bit of a clean. I obviously hadn't cleaned it last time, so I'm just hoping it stamps okay. And I'm just going to stamp these in black, and I'll use a little acrylic block with it. I don't know how I did it, but I actually stabbed myself with the acrylic block. Lifted the skin and everything. Anyway, so I've stamped my 5 cards, 2 of the dragonfly and 3 of the butterfly. And what I'm going to do next is, just since I've got my ink pad out, I'm actually just going to ink the edges at this stage. So just going to go right round them. Lots of different ways to do this, but it just seems to set the card off just by having that little bit of colour round the edge. Okay. Now that step could have been left to the end, but I just wanted to get it done and get my ink pad away and out the road. So, what now? Well, what I'm going to do is put a plaster on my hand so that I don't get anything in that. Right, it's just a silly little thing, but you know, when you're working with paints and things like that, you need to be careful of anything that's open. So, who knew you could stab yourself with an acrylic block? Right, so I could go from this stage and simply stick the affirmations down, but what I want to do is to add a little bit of colour. And this is where I was saying, you know, whatever materials you've got, if you want to add more to your cards, then do, or if your background's already interesting, you could leave it. So I'm going to use a mixture of colour pencils And I think I might use a little bit of Neo Colour too. Now, this is watercolour underneath, so it might move a little bit, but I just want to bring in some areas that are a little bit darker in places. So I'm going to pick a couple of colours. Probably this. I don't know if they have the colours on them, I've never looked to see. Violet. And probably this one, ultramarine. And I'm just going to add a little bit of colour here and there. I already had this baby wipe to clean one of the stamps, and I'll just use that to blend it in. As I say, the watercolour paint may move a little bit underneath, but let's just work away at that for a minute or two. So that's just added a little bit. That one didn't turn out quite so well. I think this piece of paper had obviously been saturated before with the watercolour, and it's just starting to bobble a little bit now, but that's okay, won't be seen really. So now what I'm going to do is to take some colours and just put a bit of colour onto the butterfly and the dragonflies. I might do one kind of contrast. The others I think I'll just try and get something that kind of blends in again. So these are Derwent Colour Soft pencils. I'm going to use Royal Purple. I might use Bright Lilac. I'll pull out Deep Fuchsia and Electric Blue. Let's see where that takes us. Maybe even just blue. Okay, so I have them coloured, and I think what I'm going to do now is just take these same pencils and maybe just do a little bit of shading here and there, just a little bit of colouring, nothing too much, because I won't be able to blend those in. I don't have anything to blend them in with. But yeah, we'll just give that a go, just here and there, just to give an added bit of interest. I don't know if this would blend it. I'd start to do underneath again, so let's see where it takes me. Okay, so, don't know why, but everything is moving today. So, I've decided that actually I'm just going to put these statements on as is. I'm not going to change them out with different fonts and different words. So, basically going to cut them to size. I will cut through some of them and then just stick them down using the glue stick. I'll show you me doing one. You don't need to see me doing them all. So I'm now going to take my black pen and I'm going to go around my words, and I'm also going to put on just a very quick border, probably just a sketchy border. Now usually that's something I would do at the very end, but depending on what other products you're using, I'm going to come back in and use one of these pencils. Now they do have slightly waxy feel to them, and sometimes certain pens won't work over them, so I'm doing my kind of border and going around my words now. And I'll do one card and then again I'll finish the rest off camera. Okay, so I'm calling these done. It's the sort of thing that whatever supplies you've got, you could play and play and play if you've got lots of supplies, but if you only have a few, then just use them to best effect. So I started off with the background, did some stamping, added a little bit more colour, used my black pen to do a sketchy border and to go around the words, and then I used just a coloured pencil just to bring a little bit of added colour around the edge and around the words, and a white pen for little bits of highlights here and there. So I'm pretty happy with how these have turned out. I did use glue stick rather than a wet glue, simply because I printed these on an inkjet printer and I hadn't sprayed them at all, so you know the words might have run, so I just left them. Just used the glue stick. This one, I listened to my inner coach. I was reading an article recently, and obviously a lot of us know about the inner critic, and I suppose it's turning that around and saying, well, if we have an inner coach as well, so rather than our inner critic saying, you're not good enough, you can't do that, you know, you're not as good as anybody else, then turn that around and listen to your inner coach who might say, try this, give it a go. So I will listen to my inner coach. So that's that set of 5. I'll just show you the others that I made in a little bit more detail. So these, I'd already made that background. I can't remember what it was with. I had some of these already made. And all I've done here is to take 2 different stamps and just apply them here. And beyond that, a tiny little bit of white and black, you know, different style border, but really quite a plain card. And I think that's the thing that's coming across about these cards to me. They've got kind of a different mood to some of them. These ones are quite calm, almost zen-like to me. These ones, well, I hope they're all uplifting, but, you know, again, just the different colour. These ones were on a jelly plate background, and what I did here was, you know, if you've got different stamps, then by all means use them. So these all came from the one sheet of paper, but it had lots of different colours on it, and I added a different stamp to each. You'll see you've got the sketchy border in again, first with black, then a bit of white. And what I also did was I went round the kind of stamp just with some coloured pencil. I also added a little bit of the Neo Colour 2s here and there just to lift some of those colours a bit more. So these are more colourful ones, I do like them as well. And this final set, you know, if you've only got one stamp, then just repeat it over and over. And I've used the one stamp in more or less the same place on each card. And all I did here was take an account of the colour that was in the background, which was these kind of yellow-orange. I just took 2 or 3 coloured pencils and I just did each flower slightly different colour. And then I also put that colour around the edge. So this one, this orangey one, you see it's also got the colour around the edge and around the words. And that just helps it blend with the background. It's the same kind of set of colours, but the same token, it stands out a little bit. So those are my creative affirmation cards. And as I say, if you're in the Art and Soul Studio Facebook group, this is my prompt to you for the month of February. And whether you make 1 card, 5 cards, 20 cards, then, you know, I'd love if you would share them with us. And of course, if you share them in the group, then you will be entered into a giveaway that will come up probably towards the end of March. So any of my projects that you take part in, if you show them in the group, then your name will be entered. If you enter for January, February, March, then you'll be entered 3 times for that giveaway. And likewise with Diana's prompts that she's doing on a weekly basis, she'll be doing some giveaways as well. So I hope you've enjoyed those. This, as I say, will be in the group files. Just in case you want to use it, you can write your affirmations on. You don't have to use these affirmations. You can use whatever you want. But I hope this has given you some ideas to make your own set of creative affirmation cards. So thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Bye for now.